When my husband died, his millionaire boss called me. Ma'am, I found something. Come to my office right now. Don't tell your son or daughter-in-law anything. You could be in danger. When I arrived, I froze upon seeing who was at the door. I'm glad to have you here. Follow my story until the end and comment from what city you are viewing me from. That way, I can see how far my story has traveled. I never thought that after 45 years of marriage, I would feel like a stranger in my own life. But there I was, seated in the front pew at Elijah's funeral, while my son Marcus and my daughter-in-law Kira handled every decision as if I didn't exist. Mama, just leave this to us. You just worry about staying calm, Marcus had told me that morning with that condescending voice he had developed over the last few years. Kira nodded beside him with that false smile I'd grown all too familiar with. I stayed quiet because I didn't have the strength to fight. Elijah had died of a heart attack 3 days earlier so suddenly that I still couldn't fully process it. One moment he was eating breakfast with me, talking about the garden he wanted to plant in the spring, and the next I found him collapse in the garage. I watched the people filling the community church, Elijah's co-workers, neighbors, some distant relatives. Everyone approached Marcus and Kira to offer condolences as if they were the ones who were widowed. I was just an old woman of 68 who needed to be shielded from the trauma. Grandma is very fragile, I heard Kira whisper to someone. Marcus and I are taking care of everything. Fragile. That word hurt more than any empty condolence. Elijah never saw me as fragile. To him, I was Lena, his partner, his equal. But ever since Marcus married Kira 5 years ago, everything had gradually changed. During the service, I noticed something strange. Marcus seemed more relieved than grief-stricken. Every time someone approached to console him, he responded with a composure that bordered on indifference. Kira, for her part, had tears in her eyes, but something about her expression felt calculated, as if she were putting on a performance. After the burial at the home Elijah and I had shared for so many years, people gathered for the lunch Kira had organized. I sat in my favorite chair by the window, watching my daughter-in-law run everything as if it were her own house. Lena, you should go rest, Kira suggested, approaching me with a cup of tea I hadn't asked for. It's been a very long day for you. I'm fine right here, I replied, but my voice sounded weaker than I intended. Marcus came over and sat on the sofa across from me. Mama, Kira, and I have been talking. We don't think you should stay in this house alone. It's too big for you, and after what happened with Dad. My blood ran cold. What are you talking about? Well, Marcus continued, exchanging a look with Kira. There are some very nice retirement communities where you'll be safer with people your own age activities. I'm not going to any nursing home, I said, feeling indignation give me strength I didn't know I had. Kira sat beside me, taking my hand with a softness I found unbearable. It's not a nursing home, Lena. They are elegant senior living facilities, and we could visit you every weekend. This is my home, I mumbled, but I already felt my resolve crumbling under their pitying gazes. The conversation was interrupted by the phone ringing. Marcus got up to answer it, and I could hear his voice from the kitchen, though not the exact words. When he returned, his expression had changed. It was someone from Dad's office, he said, looking annoyed. They wanted to talk to you about some paperwork. What paperwork? I asked. I don't know. I told him you were indisposed, that they could arrange anything with me. Something in his tone bothered me. Marcus, your father worked at that company for 30 years. If they want to talk to me about something, I have the right to hear it. Mama, don't worry about those things. We'll handle all the paperwork and legal affairs. That night, After everyone left and Marcus and Kira finally left me alone, I sat on the bed I had shared with Elijah for so many years. The house was too silent, full of memories that now felt distant. That's when my cell phone rang. The number was unfamiliar. Mrs. Lena Odom, a man's voice said on the other end of the line. I'm Theodore Vance, your husband's boss at Sterling and Grant Financial. Mr. Vance, I replied, recalling the name. Elijah had mentioned his boss several times, always with respect. Ma'am, I am so sorry for your loss. Elijah was an extraordinary man, and everyone at the office valued him immensely. Thank you, I murmured. There was a pause, and then his voice became more serious. Mrs. Odom, I need to see you urgently. There's something you need to know about the last few months of your husband's life. Something important. My heart started beating faster. What kind of thing? I can't talk over the phone. Can you come to my office tomorrow morning? And ma'am, it is crucial that you don't tell your son or daughter-in-law anything about this conversation. Elijah was very specific about that. The air caught in my lungs. Why? What is going on? Please, Mrs. Odom, come tomorrow at 10 in the morning. Your husband asked me that if anything happened to him, I should make sure to speak with you, but only with you. The line cut off, and I was left sitting in the dark, holding the phone with trembling hands. Elijah had anticipated his death. He had left specific instructions, and for some reason, those instructions included keeping Marcus and Kira out of the loop. For the first time since his death, I felt like my husband was talking to me from somewhere far away, telling me to pay attention, that this was not the time to be fragile. Something was terribly wrong, and I was the only one who could figure it out. The next morning, I woke up with a determination I hadn't felt in months. For the first time since Elijah's death, I had a clear purpose. I dressed carefully, choosing the navy blue suit Elijah always said made me look elegant and strong. Marcus called early as he had been doing since the funeral. How did you sleep, Mama? Cora and I were thinking maybe you should stay with us for a few days. I'm fine, son, I replied, trying to sound normal. In fact, I have to go out this morning. There was a pause. Go out where? My mind worked quickly. To the pharmacy. I ran out of my blood pressure pills. I can bring you the pills. You don't have to go out, Marcus. I can drive to the drugstore. I am not an invalid. His sigh was audible through the phone. All right, but be careful, and if you need anything, call us immediately. I drove downtown with my hands clenched on the steering wheel. The Sterling and Grant Financial building was a 20-story glass tower that had always intimidated me a little. Elijah worked on the 15th floor in the internal audit department. The receptionist guided me to the executive floor where I had never been. Theodore Vance's office was impressive. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the entire city, mahogany furniture, and a sense of power that permeated the air. Theodore Vance was a man of about 55 with perfectly styled gray hair and a suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent. He stood up when I entered, and I saw genuine concern in his eyes. Mrs. Odom, thank you for coming. Please have a seat. I settled into one of the leather chairs in front of his desk, feeling as if I was in uncharted territory. First of all, Theo began. I want you to know that your husband was one of our most valuable employees. In 30 years, we never had a single complaint about his work. Thank you, I murmured, although something in his tone told me this was just a preamble. Theo stood up and walked to a file cabinet behind his desk. He took out a thick folder and placed it in front of me. Mrs. Odom, during the last 6 months of his life, Elijah came to see me several times with very specific concerns. He opened the folder revealing pages and pages of documents, handwritten notes in Elijah's familiar script, and what looked like photographs of other documents. Concerns about what? Theo looked me straight in the eyes about his family. I felt like the floor had moved beneath my feet. My family. Elijah believed that his son and daughter-in-law were trying to manipulate him into making significant changes to his will and his bank accounts. The words didn't make immediate sense. That is impossible. Marcus would never. Mrs. Odom, he interrupted gently. Did you know that in the last 8 months, Elijah received multiple visits from your son and daughter-in-law, often when you were not home? They repeatedly suggested to him that it would be better for you if he organized things so that if something happened to him, Marcus would have immediate legal power over all financial and medical decisions related to you. I shook my head, but something cold settled in my stomach. That can't be true, I whispered. Theo opened one of the pages and turned it toward me. It was a photocopy of a partially completed legal document. I recognized Elijah's signature at the bottom, but it was crossed out. Elijah brought this to me 3 months ago. He said Marcus had pressured him to sign it, telling him it was best for the family and that it would protect you from having to make difficult decisions if he were gone. I read the first lines of the document. It was a transfer of power of attorney that would have given Marcus total control over all our finances and medical decisions related to me if Elijah died or became incapacitated. But he didn't sign it. I observed. No. And that's what started to worry Elijah. As he told me when he refused to sign it, Marcus became very upset. He told him he was being selfish, that he wasn't thinking about what would be best for you. My mind began to make connections I didn't want to make. I remembered Marcus and Kira's visits over the last year, how they always seemed to be whispering about something when I entered the room. There's more, Theo continued, turning to another page. Elijah also told me that Kira had begun suggesting you were showing signs of confusion, of memory loss. What? Apparently, she had started commenting to both Elijah and Marcus that you were repeating stories, forgetting conversations, that perhaps you needed closer medical supervision. I felt like I had been punched. I'm not. My memory is perfectly fine. Elijah knew that. That's why he started documenting everything, every conversation, every suggestion, every pressure he felt from them. Theo flipped through several more pages, showing me detailed notes in Elijah's hand, dates, times, transcribed conversations. My husband had been keeping a meticulous record of what now appeared to be a sustained campaign to undermine my confidence and gain control over our lives. Why didn't he tell me anything? I asked, feeling tears that I didn't know I had. He told me he didn't want to worry you until he was sure what was happening. He hoped he was wrong.